Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor and his friends give you sports betting tips. I'm your host, ProfessorSides, and I have built a set of mathematical models named Sideline to predict various sports outcomes. You'll hear more about the models over the course of this episode. It's set to cover 4 Major League Baseball games scheduled to be played on Monday, April 17th, 2023. Get you in here, check out the webpage on the banner. It's www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/new for some explanations and community rules. Also, if you're interested in projections and picks on every game, sign up on Dub Club. That link's in the show description. But even if you're not there, still thrilled to have you here. Remember that sports are predictable, so the discussion on this show projects a typical game. It does not try to forecast it to a T as that'd be a foolish and impossible goal. We take a long-term view around here and don't get distracted. When a team has allowed 2 base runners through 6 innings and then decides to give up like 1 billion runs, I'm not looking at you Astros on Sunday Night Baseball, as those things balance out in the long run, but are hard to foresee before they happen. In other words, we're going to have good variance, we're going to have bad variance. And so as much as I'd like to say we'll be profitable every day, that's an impossible reality for any gambler. The idea being it's all about the long run, not the short run. Jake, how's baseball treated you so far this year?
Look, I am in love with what the Braves are doing. I've learned the hard way. You don't question Alex Anthopoulos because I was like, why are we getting rid of Contreras? He brings in Murphy and Murphy's killing it. But I mean, there's like the Rays. Like, there just seems to be a lot of fun going on. Like the Rays on that crazy run. The Angels still struggling to win games with the 2 best players in baseball.
The more things change.
It's been fun. I've loved the rule changes with the pitch clock and all that. I think this is probably my favorite year of baseball so far in a long time.
Yeah, shaving 40 minutes off of a baseball game is good because you're not losing any action. You're losing the nothingness, right? That was I'm so glad. I was so excited for it. I knew based on minor league data what would happen, and I'm so glad that that's come to fruition. We've got some good games to talk about Monday. We will talk about the aforementioned Angels. But before we get to that, some reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free. And if you turn on notifications, you won't miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or college football content this channel provides. Reminder, Agri Minute plays return 4 units. That is the risk plus win equals 4. So that we risk proportionally more on favorites than dogs. And if you have been thinking a little favorite heavy here, we're gonna repay the favor and give you a lot of dogs today. Value's value, whether it's favorites or dogs. Some days it's all favorites, some days it's all dogs, some days it's a mix. You never know. But today we're gonna get some of those dogs. We're gonna be risking less than half of 4 on the A grade plays if it's a dog, less than half of the 3 for B grades, and less than half the 2 for C grades, because what we win will be more than the other half and add up to those numbers. So again, that's kind of the way I scale it. But as always, with that, with the picks, with everything, take what you like and leave the rest. Got the early game here. It's Boston Marathon Day. Angels at the Red Sox. We're going to take the Red Sox plus 136 in A grade play. A massive edge here, as the model says. This is pretty much a coin toss game. And Jake, you already talked about it. The Angels really struggling to win ball games by having the best 2 players in baseball. Ohtani will be going, and he has been incredible so far. Despite the fact he has a .47 ERA, they still haven't won all of his games, and I think that tells you all you need to know right there. Underlying metrics, of course, have him not quite as good. He's still one of the better pitchers in baseball, obviously, but that doesn't change the fact that the offense still can struggle. The relievers are still terrible behind him, and of course, the Angels need him to go really deep because of that bad bullpen. The Red Sox have been doing pretty well so far this series. Let's back him again here. Brian Bayo is getting the start for them. I have him as above average. I think he's a pretty solid pitcher. First start of the year, had some forearm tightness, I believe is what it was in the spring. But the Red Sox offense, while it lags behind the Angels, it does project better against righties. Their bullpen obviously is a lot better, and of course they're at home. I think the Red Sox can get this one here on Marathon Day. The other angle in this one is you're looking at just barely minus odds to play this on one line and get the 1.5. That might be another way to look too, as I think the projected total of 9 is a little high. Model says 8.4, so under might be a way to look there. Either way, again, a coin toss kind of situation. Ohtani is really good, but he can't do it all by himself. So as usual, we tend to fade him because he's overpriced. The last note here, weather-wise, it will be a chilly morning, upper 40s, slight breeze on this one, mostly across the sonora wind effect. Just a cold day, going to be hard to score runs, even though it's a really hitter-friendly ballpark. Jake, what do you got for us?
Yeah, the under is, I love the under in this too because Otani is a very good pitcher, and the Boston and the Red Sox not that great of a team this year, so it's going to be hard to get to that 9 runs or whatever. But I think the better play is just taking the Red Sox on the money line. There's an Otani tax anytime he goes out there pitching, and the Reds are not garbage. I mean, they're okay. They can show flashes of doing things that I think he might surprise him here, especially with Bello. But is it Bello or Bayo?
I'm not even sure. I see the double L. I grew up in South Texas. See the double L, and I want to do the Y. I don't know if it's accurate or not.
Yeah, I don't either. But I think you're right. I think he's very good. Don't know much about him yet, but I feel like he's going to do very well. It's not a lot of tape on him, so people are going to be guessing a little bit. I think the Red Sox stand a pretty good chance of winning this one.
Yeah, I think it's Bayo, but either way, one of the younger pitchers, I think he's pretty solid. And whether it's money line or run line, it's like you said, there's that Otani tax. It's one of those, if you fade him every time out in the long run, it's to be profitable. It's no different than the Jacob deGrom tax, which actually is a perfect segue right into Rangers and Royals. And we're going to fade Jacob deGrom here. Jake, you and I were talking before show. This almost feels like that if you're a good pitcher, we're just going to fade you day. And I like backing good pitchers. We'll back good pitchers a lot as well. It's just that sometimes these good pitchers get a little bit overpriced because people think they account for too much. If you look back historically, Jacob deGrom here the last couple of years, I think I mentioned this before, if you just faded him every game, you'd be doing really well because of the fact that his team has to still score runs. The bullpen still has to hold it. He can't do everything, even though deGrom is by far the best pitcher on the planet. I'm going with the Royals here. This is a really tough spot for the Rangers. Of course, they're looking really good here on Sunday Night Baseball, but the travel spot now, the Royals are in Kansas City, ready for them, rested up. The Rangers will be traveling overnight. I think the Royals are a great play. It's a B-grade pick here. Model says it should be minus 163 for the Rangers. So getting plus 176 in the Royals offers some pretty good value. Projected total of 7.7. Kind of a chillier night in Kansas City, starting off in the mid-60s, closing in the mid-50s. Wind mostly across. We already talked about deGrom, of course. Not a shiny ERA, but the underlying metrics this year are fantastic. He still is the best pitcher in baseball, and it's not even close. Jordan Lyles for the Royals, not great. But again, this is just all about the price, the tax on deGrom. Whether you want to go run line, if you want to play a little bit safer, you can do that as well. But the Royals here aren't really drastically that different of a team than the Rangers. Their bullpen isn't great, just like the Rangers. Their offense isn't great, just like the Rangers right now without Seager. Obviously, deGrom is worth a lot, but he's only going to account for so much. Model says the Rangers win the 62% of the time, and that mostly goes up from, say, 47 to 62 because of Jacob deGrom. It's a 15% boost just based off the starting pitcher. That's a lot, and he's really good. It's just paying the price, and the Rangers not a way I'm going to go. So I'm going to back the home Royals here, plus 176, B grade. And again, you can also look at the run line, just like we talked about the Red Sox if you want. Jake, what do you got for us?
Yeah, my heart just breaks for deGrom because he's got to feel snake bitten. Everywhere he goes, the offense just doesn't show up. He pitches incredible, like the best pitcher on the planet. And it just seems like a great thing to do is just fade him all the time because often, I guess, fat and happy is like, oh, deGrom will take care of it. We only have to get maybe a half a run. And the Royals have shown a little bit of flashes here.
Some flashes, yeah.
Yeah, like the Melendez and Bobby Witt, two very good like kind of younger players, and then the catcher, is it Perez?
Yeah.
I always forget that. Yeah. I mean, they've got some offensive weapons, so once deGrom gets out of there, their runs put up, and that could be enough to win this game, especially with the travel and kind of playing a little earlier than the normal, like 7 or 8 o'clock. They're playing they're playing up. Right, the time wrong.
No,
but yeah, they're playing their normal time, but they're still traveling. And correct me if I'm wrong, the travel to Sunday Night Baseball, that's been a big fade.
It's been, yes. Absolutely, yeah. That's what I say. I think it's a great spot here to fade the Rangers because the playing on the travel after Sunday Night Baseball has been pretty rough. The only times where it hasn't been quite as bad has been more so if it's been a really close destination. Obviously, it's better than flying, to LA or something. But the flight to Kansas City is not just a hop, skip, and a jump. It's a little bit further away, and really a bad travel spot here for the Rangers. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think this is a good way to double up on.
Yeah, and Cousin Jared was on here earlier in the season talking about the Royals and talking about Melendez, him being a little bit concerned because he's one of their better hitters and being a catcher. And of course, Salvador Perez being one of their better hitters, catcher. And then, of course, kind of right after that, we started noticing the Royals are putting him out in the outfield to try to get his bat in the lineup as well. And again, the Royals, they aren't terrible. They like I said, I've seen some flashes from every once in a while. They look like they're competent. Not going to make the playoffs good, of course, but they're going to win a handful of home games. It goes kind of to what I talked about at the start of the show. It's about the long-term. Ace pitchers win a lot. It's just, do they win at the clip that the big prices are there? That's usually the answer is no. Not always, but usually no. We saw it here on Sunday with Alcantara, ace pitcher losing. It's like every day, every other day, there's a really good pitcher that loses. So grabbing the plus odds here, the smart long-term play, or again, if you want to play a little more conservative, plus odds on the run line as well. Also in the same time slot, 7:45 p.m. Eastern, Diamondbacks at the Cardinals. Going to grab the Diamondbacks here on the road at plus 143. That's a B grade. Sideline says it should be Cardinals minus 135. So a little bit of value here, taking the Snakes on the road. It'll be a chilly night in St. Louis, around 60 degrees to start, 50 to close. Wind will be blowing pretty strong to start, dying down as the night goes on, but it'll be maybe out, maybe across. So it's kind of a question mark to be updated as we get closer to the game. Because it might be more across and cold on a pitcher-friendly ballpark, the model says to go under. Projects total of 7.4, actual total is 8.5. It'll be two okay pitchers, Jack Flaherty and Merrill Kelly. The model has Kelly as the better pitcher. I think most of us would agree with that. Flaherty's looked pretty good with his results, but the underlying metrics have been really scary for Flaherty. I'm not really sure he's going to continue to pitch at this level. So with that being said, thinking that Kelly's the better pitcher, both of these sets of relievers are decent. Cardinals do have an edge offensively, and they are at home, but I think the price is too steep. Grab the dog here. I think the Diamondbacks got a chance to pull this off. Model says they win almost 43% of the time, and if they win 43% of the time at plus 143, it's a good long-term investment. Jake, what do you got for us?
Yeah, like I love this Diamondbacks. I think they're underrated as a team. They've got some really good offense there. That I like their top two pitchers in Gallen and Kelly. I think it's a pretty good 1-2 combo that'll help them through most of the series this year. And so I'm going to be backing Kelly and Gallen most of the time, especially on plus odds. I'm not a huge fan of the Cardinals. I think Flaherty is. Since he's come back from the injury, was it last year or the year before?
Last year, and he didn't pitch a ton.
Yeah. He's just not quite been the same as he was right before that injury, where I think he was the wins leader that year going in. So he's not quite there. I think he's lost a little bit, and it's going to take some time to figure it out. I just don't trust the Cardinals at all, really, this year. I'm going to take the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, and I do kind of strategically try to pick good angles and good things to discuss here. And so far, I think all three of these really fit that category. With the first one, it's, hey, people keep backing the Angels. There's just a good value fading them because they just aren't that good. Keep fading the Angels. On the second one is talk about the Sunday Night Baseball thing, about DeGrom, how, again, as good as he is, he can't win them all by himself. He hasn't in the past. This one, I think it's like you said, I think my angle on this one is, I'm like you, I think the Cardinals are that good. I haven't been that impressed with them. The models kind of like them so far, but they haven't really looked that good. I'm not really sure how good they are. The Diamondbacks are a little bit undervalued. We've kind of seen that so far. We faded them a few times. It hasn't worked really well. And Merrill Kelly's a guy we've talked about all last year as well, that he was a guy who was really profitable to back. So again, kind of a lot of angles on this one. Doesn't mean the Diamondbacks win. It just means that I think it's a good angle, good investment here on the plus odds. You're not going to win your plus odds bet, but even if you're winning half of them, you're doing great. And that's kind of the boat. I think this one's, I think it could be moderately close to half, and plus 143 again, then provides really good value. And so the late games to wrap us up, 4 for 4 underdogs that we're going to cover on show. Let's take the Athletics at home. Jake, the Athletics have been playing pretty good lately. It hasn't shown up on the scoreboard yet, but they looked really good on Saturday and Sunday in close losses to the Mets. We obviously faded them really big on Friday, talked about the terrible travel spot, and that was the easiest money. Other than I think the Twins Yankees over. I think that was probably easier money, having that one by the middle of the first inning. But otherwise, that was just a terrible travel spot for Oakland. But the other two games in this series, the A's played really well, couldn't quite get it done. So maybe you look the same angle here. Maybe you look the plus 1.5 on the run line, play a little safer. That's kind of up for you to decide. But I think the A's are the play here. The Cubs have been getting results. They played the Dodgers really well. I don't know if this is going to happen. I am a little concerned that the Cubs just played the Dodgers really well, almost took all three of them. Now they're traveling up the road. Oh, it's just the A's. Let your guard down a little bit. How many times do you see baseball teams lose to teams that they had no business losing to? This feels like that perfect kind of trap spot for the Cubs. I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not, but I'm thinking about that. Mathematically, the model says that the Cubs only win this barely more than 50% of the time. So plus 115 on the A's, B grade, a pretty solid investment. So it should be A's plus 107. Again, Oakland, I like the way they played. The Cubs, I'm just not sure how good they are. It's worked well. They've been playing well, but I'm just not sure how real it is. Their offense, I still think, is below average. It's better than the A's, but it's still not great. Neither one of these sets of relievers have a lot of faith in. I have no faith in either one of these pitchers, but I think Kyle Muller might be the better pitcher. Wesneski's been terrible so far in 2 outings this year, and the underlying metrics actually are worse than his results. Muller's at least more average. So, the A's at home have the starting pitcher edge. They got a shot to win this. It's a pretty coin game, so plus odds in the A's or the run line, whichever you like, I think makes a lot of sense. Projected total 7.7. I'm seeing 8 and 8.5. Wouldn't be blowing out like kind of normally is in that park. Chilly night in Oakland, around 50 degrees for this one. So kind of just a normal run-of-the-mill night in Oakland with regards to looking at the weather forecast. But I think the A's are just a really smart play here. Real tough spot for the Cubs after a great series. If they can go on the road now and take care of business here, props to them. But that's not an easy thing to do because this Oakland team, again, been playing pretty well and gave the Mets everything they wanted in those last 2 games. Jake, what do you got?
Yeah, I think this is a spot here with like the Dodgers are a top tier name in all sports, really, especially in baseball. So you play a little bit harder. I don't know that they're overlooking the A's, but it's just you step up because the spotlight's a little brighter when you're playing the Dodgers. I just don't think there's quite there with athletics because it's just who cares about the athletics?
No one shows up to the games.
Yeah. That mixed with that, and I think you're right. Muller is a better pitcher here. I was disappointed because there's a lot of hype for him when he's coming up through the Braves organization. Oakland thinks they see something there when they traded for him, but I don't think it's quite there. But because he'll have that one inning where he just gets, but it'll ruin a game because it's really bad. But I think if he can get 4 or 5 decent innings here, I think the Athletics can pull this out, especially being at home. Cubs maybe start a little slow. I don't like their pitcher at all. I don't think he's near as good as anything that's happening. But I think this is a great plus money play here.
And you make a great point. Oakland is one of a couple of teams that is really home to reclamation projects, right? And that's, of course, what the A's are trying to do here with Muller. And even if they can't make him, a Cy Young contender, right? If they can make him just a little bit better and decent or whatever, and they've got good value from it, it's exactly what they're trying to do. And that's really all we're asking to do with the, at home and pitcher-friendly ballpark against a below-average offense, just kind of being around average, should get the job done. He just has to avoid that inning that can go bad. But Wesneski has not been able to avoid that inning either. And so it's kind of like, I don't even remember the game now because I'm getting them all crisscrossed in my head, but there was one that we talked about at the end of last week where it's like, hey, I think it was the A's Mets game on Saturday with Fujinami, and they should have won that game, was like, hey, we're backing a bad pitcher, but we're also fading a bad pitcher as well. And it's kind of the same thing here. It's like, it's not that Muller's great, but it's not that Wesneski's great either. So A's been playing really well. They're going to get some of these wins here eventually. I'm taking them on the money line here, but again, run line, not a bad look on any of these road dogs. If you want to play it a little more conservatively, you want to split your bet, you got a lot of different options to play it based off of how you see. And that's all we've got today. Jake, parting words for the viewer.
Yeah, I know the guy that's watching, does the MLB scheduling is watching. Dude, what's up with this giant gap? We go from 11 to 7. You can't throw a 3 o'clock in there somewhere. I don't know. Like, treat it like college baseball, where the last day of a series they play an early one so the teams can get out. Like, just do that so we get more early games.
Well, they would need to then roll more series into Monday, right? That's what they do for the marathon game. Did you see that? I think there was a ESPN 30 for 30 about the person who makes the schedule, like back in the day, like there was one married couple and they made the schedule and it was really wild. And did it for 30 years. Now, I think it's more automated now, but that's my biggest complaint is at least baseball's better than college basketball, which goes long stretch with no day games. But we need day games on Mondays. We need day games on Tuesdays. We need them on Fridays, more than just the Cubs, right? Usually Wednesday, Thursday is fine, but we got to get more day. Just one. Doesn't have to be a lot. Just one in the middle afternoon, especially on marathon day, having the early one. If we could roll in another one at like I said, 3:00, whatever, 2:00, something, that'd be perfect. So just more day games, right? When we run the world, we'll make more baseball day games, right?
Clearly, especially when you get the Angels, who are a West Coast team, barely out of bed and the game's starting. So.
Yeah, I was thinking about out here. I'm still in Vegas here, my last day. But yeah, it's an 8:00 local start. So the fans here are watching their team at 8 a.m. Like how hopefully if you're not working, you might still be in bed when this one starts. A little bit of a rougher setup. Yeah, it's obviously just always our request is more day games. But that's all we've got here. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can enjoy all the sports betting content provided on this channel, dropped right into your feed. Be back again tomorrow with more baseball betting content. Until then, as always, best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.